Youorns. Greetings, fellow Watford fans. Omar here, and it's time for the youorns 10-minute take on Watford 1, Southampton 1 in the FA Cup fourth round at the Vig. Watford got off to a flying start 5 minutes in, and they were up 1-0 against this Saints side, a Saints side that had not lost since September the 29th. That's right. It's been almost 4 months to the day. Tomorrow will be 4 months to the day since Southampton last lost a game. And they were 7 minutes away from doing so in this contest today at the Vic. But Watford could not hold on to what would have been a priceless advance to the fifth round against Liverpool. We'll have to wait and see if it is us traveling to Anfield, because Watford will have to play a replay against a Saints side that was nowhere to be found for much of this game, because we made them look poor, did we? We made the Saints look poor. A Saints side that normally gives us a lot of trouble at Vicarage Road was simply non-existent for the first 60 to 65 minutes of this contest. But when Russell Martin brought on those subs, you saw Southampton's play elevate. And that's the Southampton that we know and have seen all season long and throughout the years at the Vic. They make things very difficult for you. Russell Martin's done an excellent job at Southampton and will be the manager of the year, bar none, in the championship when all is said and done this season. And Southampton will probably be back in the Premier League as well after a one-season stay in the championship. But you saw today that they did not belong on the pitch, at least in the first half and parts of the second half with Watford. Didn't belong. Southampton were invisible. Watford's play, effervescent. They moved the ball really well from the off. And they had a Asprilla on the left, Martins on the right, and they both looked like a dynamic duo. And they were tormenting the Saints with some good passes, good crosses into the box, good forays into the 18-yard box of Southampton. We let the Saints know we were there, and that was the difference in play. The movement was quicker and livelier. Georgie was very good as well. These players were the ones who let Watford keep going and going and going. And Bio himself was very lively as well. Industrious as always, and he really did look to put some hurting on Southampton, but he just missed a great opportunity, skimming past the post in the first half that would have doubled Watford's lead at that point. Watford had a litany of chances in the first half of this game, and many of them also came into the second half of the game. Watford could not execute that second goal. And had they got that second goal, I think this game would have been obviously a lot different than it was. So Watford, those chances really were where Watford failed to lock a ticket down for the fifth round, because those chances would have, had they been executed, made all the difference in the world to Watford. I thought the defending was very good today. Matty Pollock was excellent in defense. This is a man who wants out of the Vic, but he didn't play like it today. He played like a man who had a lot to prove, not just to Watford, but to a prospective buyer. With a few days left in this transfer deadline, I think Matty Pollock did himself no harm at all. He probably will get the Vicarage Road exit that he's been seeking. Playing as well as he did today certainly will attract some suitors for him. But if he doesn't leave, he should play some more, because he absolutely fortified this defense alongside the likes of Wesley Hood, who also had another very good, very positive game. Sierralta in central defensive midfield, I thought, was very good as well. Jake Livermore on the bench for this one. And I want to talk about Jake Livermore and Val Ishmael in a few moments' time. But I thought overall the first half performance for Watford was very, very strong and lively. They just needed that second goal to push this game out of sight and keep themselves well ahead of the Southampton side that showed flashes but did not penetrate Watford the way we know that they can and have for against a number of teams this season. I thought Watford today really had the tempo right, had the management of the game correct, and for once, Watford did not concede a goal within 15 minutes of scoring one themselves. That was one of the other bright spots that I haven't previously mentioned anywhere, except for here, is that Watford did not concede instantly or almost instantly after. One of the things I've talked about so much over this season is that we are not able to manage out 10 to 15 minutes of play after we've scored in a lot of these games, particularly when we score first, whether it's home or away, but particularly away. We just do not manage out the next 15 minutes very well. But today, That was not the case. Watford managed out the 15 minutes very well. In fact, they managed out the rest of the half very well. They went the rest of the half without conceding any goal at all. The defending was stout. The positioning was really good. I thought there were some key blocks made in this game, especially by Wesley Hook and a number of other players in critical moments to keep the scoreline at nil. Watford were looking for a clean sheet. They haven't had one now in 13 games at least, and they were looking to see if they could get one today. They were oh so close in that second half. Even when the subs were on for Southampton, with the players that we know that they have got a stronger caliber to them, Watford was still holding out and holding on, but bringing in Emmanuel Dennis among the subs did not help. And I think taking off Asprilla and taking off Martins, I think both of them were taken off, was not good either from the manager. And I think that's where Val Ishmael helped lose this game. Not that he helped lose it, but those substitutions did not help Watford's cause at all. Watford had to just stay in their shape and do the dogged defending that they'd been doing. But for some reason, Val saw fit to take off Asprilla and Martins, take off both of them in substitute moves, which I don't think was good. I believe he took off both. Correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I remember, is that he took off both those players because he wanted to go fully defensive. And I understand that you can bring on the defender, and you brought on Ryan Porteous later. But for me, you cannot take off both of those two players. I think that really throws the balance deep. And if you're going to take off a player at all, take off one of them, but not both. You need to have some outlet, and you can't bring on Emmanuel Dennis. That's the problem for me here. A man who's not played football since November should not be on the pitch in an FA Cup tie against a team that is flying up the championship, against a team you're literally 7 minutes away from beating, against a team who, you outplayed. No reason to try to get fancy and bring on Dennis, and he was doing some tricks and flicks, some tricks in around the box in his defensive third that I did not understand. You got to keep the game simple, and I think Val is guilty of not keeping the game simple and not doing the bread and butter things to help win the game. And I think those subs were not very good ones, but it also underscores how thin the squad is. I've talked about this forever. Our squad is very thin. We still are a man or two light, of course, in the injury department we are, but also in the personnel department, we're still hoping to get at least another player in, but we'll see how that goes for the rest of this transfer deadline window, as I've said. But I thought that bringing on Emmanuel Dennis was not the way to go in this game in these last 20 minutes. He was way off the pace. You can't bring on a player who's way off the pace. I understand that there are some fans that probably wanted to see Dennis in a game like this. He'd just been brought back. There'd been a lot of fanfare around the place about the place. So we all wanted to see Dennis, perhaps. Maybe not all of us, but a lot of the Watford fan base wanted to see Emmanuel Dennis back on that pitch. So why not give him this game in which to do it? Well, I would have rather you bring him on earlier than bring him on late in a game like this and then take him off. But I really would not want to see Emmanuel Dennis in this particular game. I would have wanted to see Emmanuel Dennis on Wednesday against Wednesday, because that's who we're playing next. That's going to be back in the championship at Hillsborough. That's when you bring Emmanuel Dennis into the game away from home and then make his home debut in the championship the following game, whenever that game is going to be played. That's really where you should have brought Emmanuel Dennis. I think it might be against Cardiff. That's where you bring Emmanuel Dennis in. I thought this game, and I think the manager misread this game late on. And frankly, I thought that Russell Martin, the final 20, 25 minutes of the game, out-coached Val Ishmael, because he knew that there's a game coming up for them as well in midweek, I believe. He knew that his players who he really wanted to bring on were going to come in to try to close up and win the game, get 2 goals to win the game. Russell Martin deployed them. He was patient about it. And I felt that Val perhaps reacted in panic mode a little bit to those changes that Southampton made by bringing in Dennis, by taking off Asprilla, by taking off Martins. I think it was a bit more of a panic from Val. And I felt that if he had held what he had there with the players that he had, and maybe make the changes a bit later in the game than that, and leave Dennis on the bench, I think it's a possibility we would have run out and held on to win this game. Now, the fact that Jake Livermore didn't come on the pitch to me is telling for 2 reasons. One, either he's injured, or 2, he decided to keep him off this game for Wednesday to rest Jake Livermore, who's been around the block a few times in this game that we love. and decide to bring Jake Livermore in on Wednesday. Those are the only two reasons for me that Jake Livermore didn't come on the pitch today. And if there's a third reason, I don't know what that is. But I think those are probably two good reasons not to bring Jake Livermore in. However, if you're going to bring anybody into the game, even if it's for 10 or 15 minutes, Jake Livermore would have been the person to bring on. Now, I think I did actually mention the third reason earlier in this particular YouOrns 10-minute take, and that would have been Sierralta. Sierralta played very well in central defensive midfield today. I thought he was very good. I thought he did the things that you need to do right in that position. I thought he helped link up the play really well. Kone was terrific today as well, by the way. I thought he was excellent on the pitch before he got taken off. Now, he had to come off. There was some kind of injury. I don't know what that is yet as of the time I'm recording this, but he had to come off. So you had to bring him off. Tom Ince did not add anything to this game at all. Tom Ince, for me, he's going to be gone at the end of the season, no doubt. He has not offered Watford the kinds of things that you'd be hoping for as a Watford supporter. He scored a 2 or 3 goals for us. He scored a couple of really good quality goals in that bunch, but he has not really offered a whole lot, has not played a lot. And again, you're bringing in players who have not played a lot of football in recent weeks. Sema's been out injured. He's just come back and he played in this game and he was okay, but bringing him into a game late like this, I would have thought that you'd bring him in for his experience and his seniority and his leadership, which he had, but he didn't really impact the game in the ways that you would have liked to see. And really, that substitution, not to me a very good one, but the worst one, far worse, was bringing in Dennis, who turns his back on the ball and turns his back on the on-rushing Armstrong and turns his back, is way off position, way out of his defensive position and shape. And that gives the space to the likes of Armstrong to drill the ball past Daniel Batman. This was not a Daniel Batman error. It was not Daniel Batman's fault. Daniel Batman had a good game today. His second half was much stronger, by the way. Very decisive play from Batman in that second half, much more authoritative. I thought he was a better decision maker in the second half. I think he was solid and strong today. And I thought that in the second half, particularly, he was very good. This is not a Daniel Batman issue. This is an issue with your defenders. And it's an issue with having a player on the pitch who's not played since November. And he, being in that position, has got to defend better than that. And as a 26-year-old, you've got to know better. That is a poor job from Dennis. And the manager's got to take some responsibility for that too. He's been telling us all week, that this was the man who was going to be here. And Watford fans had to give him time, maybe 2 games, 3 games, 2 or 3 weeks, whatever it was. He said that all week long. And he still brought him into this game against a very highly fancied, very talented Southampton side who are firing on all cylinders because they got their best people on the pitch at that time with those subs. So for me, that was a mistake by the manager. The manager's got to take that on the chin today, not just Dennis, but the manager. The substitutions were not good today, and ultimately that cost us a chance to get to the 5th round. Now, listen, the tie's not over. We've still got to play these guys again in a replay. Goodness gracious me. And that's going to be very interesting. You never know. You never know with this. Is Val going to play a strong side for that replay? I don't know. Is Russell Martin? I don't know. Everything to play for. It's not over yet. And although a lot of us are probably thinking that we'll probably tank the game because we've got more important things to do, well, will Southampton tank that game at home when they've got automatic promotion that they got on their minds? I have no idea. I don't think they will. But I think this is the game with Watford's away play that they can actually pull off in this replay. We'll see. There's a lot of football to play yet. So probably getting too far ahead of myself as far as that's going. But you never know. These games can be won and they're played for a reason to win. Watford played for a reason today, but unfortunately they did not get that W that they needed to advance to the 5th round. Well, we'll see what happens next. But for now, definitely an opportunity dropped today to win a game that really would, I think, have personified a very good start to this second half of the campaign for us. This has been the YouOrns 10-minute take.